Welcome to the Retro Blood.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Retro Blood as we continue our Vampire Love Month here on the Retro Blood, celebrating 1980s vampires. Up next, if y'all like rankedy strip clubs, if y'all like a girl Jody who's depressed during a whole movie, if y'all like a vampire trying to get a tan that has a sweet mullet, by the way. Did you see that mullet? I mean, fuck, bro. What was that?
How could you miss that mullet?
Holy shit. I mean, that was the star of the show, with the mullet, okay? Come on now, okay?
That guy looked like one of the leftover Lost Boys.
I know.
He didn't make the movie.
That's all I could think about.
Or Michael Bolton.
Yeah, Michael Bolton reject Lost Boy. If y'all like that, and if y'all like bad running effects, boy, this is the movie for you, brother, because the Retro Blood is talking all about Dance of the Damned. Jay Allison, James Klein. How you feeling, Allison? Have you gone to a local strip club lately and bringing a stripper home for $1,000 to talk to her about the sun? Have you done that lately?
No. I can't say that I'm the world's best strip club expert, but this is the weirdest looking strip club I've ever seen.
Oh, that shit look depressing. Oh my god. Where do they find this shithole? I mean, fuck, bro. That thing looks so depressing. Like, I'm waiting to go back to American Werewolf where they had that fucking peep show. That shit looked funner than this.
I mean, this strip club looked literally, it looked like what it literally was, which was the corner of a studio. Like, they just built this little tiny stage and a bar, and then like they put up these like fake windows, and it's the weirdest thing. I will get it. Bizarre. I will give it one props though. It did have a Miller High Life on tap sign. Neon sign, brother. Yeah. When I saw that, I popped big. I was like, yeah, brother. Champagne and beers, brother. We got it at this strip club. Just imagine that. You got the hype man outside. I'm so glad you found this movie, man. This may be the best choice you've ever made for this show. I love this.
You actually
I actually have a lot. I actually have a lot to say about the background of this movie that I found out after I watched it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
it's pretty hilarious.
Wow.
Like
this is something. This is something else. It was remade as well.
Yeah. It was. And like, okay, you know how like I was gonna talk about this more on the Who Booked This Shit, but I'm just gonna say it now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, usually when we do remakes, it's like, 15 years in the future,
No, it was like
10,
2 years later.
10 years in the future. This shit was like 4 years later. They're like, okay, we want to forget about that shit. Watch this one. Okay.
But it's also just equally as low budget though. Because I've actually seen the remake, but I didn't know it was a remake of this movie.
Yeah.
But it had Charlie Spradling in it because I used to watch anything she was in because they used to have this giant. I used to think she was so hot. But yeah.
Are you saying that our girl? Are you saying that our girl Kate Shea needs to finish her story?
Sure. Yeah, she needs to. She's like Cody. She needs to finish her story.
Yes, she has to do it twice, brother, until she gets it right.
I actually found out I'm a huge fan of Kate Kate Shea. Is that her name?
Yeah, Cat Shea.
Cat Shea, yeah. So it's that drew a blank for a second. I'm actually a huge fan of her work. She made a Strip to Kill, and she made this movie called Poison Ivy that Drew Barrymore was in that I loved. She's actually made quite a few movies that I like a lot.
Yeah,
strangely enough.
Yeah, I mean this one's interesting. It seems like right now we're on like this. Besides, the Vampire Hunter D we did at the beginning of this month. It seems like a lot of our vampire stories are like these like artsy love triangles and shit, or like love stories.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this was a non-artsy love story.
I mean, it was kind of, you know what I mean? He brought her. I like how the vampire didn't have a name; he was just known as Vamp. So he brought her to his Richie house and stuff, and there's some crying going on.
Yeah, I'm really kind of confused. I mean, we'll talk about it as we talk about the movie, but I can't really tell. Like, sometimes she acted like she wanted to be there, and sometimes she acted like she was being held captive. So I'm not really sure what was going on in this. But
yeah, it's a very interesting. But we'll get all into it.
Yeah, we'll get to there. We'll get to that.
But before we do, like every Retro Blood, we talk about what is going on in the world of the metal music and the pro wrestling around this time. Allison, me and you are apt to, wrestling fans, big wrestling fans.
Mm-hmm. Big wrestling fans.
We went to the Royal Rumble in Tampa, live.
We did.
Because, we actually lived the gimmick, brother. We're not like some of these faker podcast people out here, brother. We live it. We go to the movies. We go to the metal concerts. We go to the wrestling shows. We live it. So we have, not only we watch it on TV, but we also have a live perspective on a lot of things. So something I want to bring up with the wrestling, which I think is pretty interesting, that I don't know if you can... Yeah, I think you could do it nowadays. So, this movie came out in April 19th, 1989. And this is it's probably a couple weeks out past WrestleMania 5 that just happened. Because WrestleMania 5 happened in April 2nd, 1989. And of course, WrestleMania 5, excuse me, hold on. Of course, WrestleMania 5 was in it was kind of like a back-to-back thing. We talked about earlier on WrestleMania 4, which we're going to do in a Lights Out podcast, probably closer to WrestleMania time, which is around April, where we're trying to do the WrestleMania 4 versus Clash of the Champions 1, which one had a better show, so look out for that in the future. But this is actually the next year, where they're still in Trump Plaza, and it was the big grudge match between the Mega Powers. The Mega Powers explodes, brother. All right, one of my favorite WrestleMania matches, and one of my favorite WrestleMania build-ups. Mm-hmm. And the thing I want to talk about is, from a live perspective, wrestling was a little different at this time, but this match would have been something to see. You know what I mean? Like, at the time, you had Macho Man, you know what I mean? Which is kind of like the workhorse champion, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Kind of like a Seth Rollins now. Then you got the Hollywood champion, Hulk Hogan, brother. You know what I mean? They're both colliding together. Yeah. And I always thought this was an interesting match because, obviously the fans were totally behind Hogan. You know what I mean? Like, they wanted Hogan to win. He was the big the big draw and everything. And, of course, Randy Savage had that whole year, which he had a great run with the WWE Championship throughout the whole year, fighting, all kinds of great, challengers and stuff with his belts. And it's just interesting to see, if this is, nowadays... I could see the crowd going more towards a Randy Savage than they would be a Hulk Hogan. I just want to get your thoughts about that.
You mean now versus then?
Yeah, now versus then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's the equivalent now? I mean, you were talking that would be like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins in a match against each other, basically, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I completely agree. Well, I mean, I think that people would definitely pull for Macho Man now as the more working class champion, which is weird to think of Macho Man as that, but yeah. And then but back then people were just so brainwashed by Hulkamania that they were just like anything Hulk Hogan would do, anything Hulk Hogan, they were just like, oh, give me Hulk Hogan, more Hulk Hogan. We haven't had enough Hulk Hogan. Although they would pretty soon after this have enough Hulk Hogan. But yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, I think that you're right that they would pull more for wrestling fans would pull more for the working class type hero, the working hero, than the Hollywood hero. If that's what you mean, if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, pretty much. Because my thought is so wrestling, how it's different now. Obviously when this was happening, we didn't have a Monday Night Raw every week. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like wrestling, they had prime time wrestling. You know what I mean? But prime time wrestling at this particular time was, Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon talking about some of the live events or squash matches that happened in the past week or something. Yeah. So most of the business was like a touring business at this particular time. They did
Yeah,
have,
it was still about selling tickets.
yeah, it's still about selling tickets and everything. And of course, they would still promote some of their big matches and angles on Primetime Wrestling. Because, and also, too, on Saturday night main event as well, too. I think in that Saturday night main event, that's when we had the Mega Powers truly exploding with Macho Man, with Miss Elizabeth getting knocked off the rope. Hogan, like a snake, taking her to the back to do God knows what with her. Okay?
God knows what.
And then Randy Savage comes back there, and he catches his ass, and he wants to beat up Hulk Hogan for trying to take his woman. All right? I'm just saying that if the roles were reversed nowadays, I'm pretty sure there would be a lot of Macho Man fans more nowadays than there were back then. But,
yeah,
but to be honest with Allison, I think back in the day, if I was my age and I was watching that, I'd probably be more of a Randy Savage fan for this particular angle. So,
yeah, true.
So I just, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, that's basically, yeah. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think that is an accurate statement. Like, I feel like I would be a Randy Savage fan for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it just, it's kind of like Randy Savage would have been like more of like the older fans person to get behind because of the way he worked, like his work style and his attitude and his character. While Hulk Hogan is more the kid celebrity figure. You know what I mean? Which is nothing wrong with that at this time. But, like I said, Hulkamania around this time, 1989, like, it was still hot, but you could see it was, especially the next year, you could see it going a little bit less. You know what I mean? A little bit less, until he obviously came back with doing the Hollywood Hogan gimmick in the 90s. So, but very, very interesting. But, like, yeah, this is actually one of the most, hottest feuds in WrestleMania history was Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage. So, and then maybe one day when we talk more of our WrestleManias, we'll do a whole breakdown of WrestleMania 5 because there's a lot to talk about. But the biggest thing I have in wrestling is kind of like the aftermath of what happened after this WrestleMania. Because the WWF would run a show in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at this time at the Spectrum. All right, and this is actually a couple days after Dance of the Damned premiered. It would be on April 22nd, 1989. And we're still running hot with Randy Savage versus Hulk Hogan. All right, because in the main event, we had Randy Savage defeat WWE Champion Hulk Hogan. Viva, Allison's favorite, the Count Out.
Oh, the Count Out, yeah. Second and only by double disqualification.
Yes. So, and this is when they had like the A town and the B town. All right, because the A town was in Philadelphia, the B town was in Boston, which is crazy because we're gonna have a AEW show coming up here pretty soon in the Boston Garden, and this one actually had the Ultimate Warrior defeating WWF Intercontinental Champion Rick Rude. Viva, Count Out, brother. So we have 2 count outs on this A and the B show. Nobody could be. You can't even get pinned at a house show, brother. Okay.
No, you can't
no pins.
No, not even no.
Yeah. So it looks like they would run for like a couple months just doing WrestleMania rematches on these shows, which is pretty interesting. So, but yeah, that's what I got for the wrestling, man. Pretty cool shows. Like we'd be running the high off WrestleMania. Every time there's an April and there's a WrestleMania that happens, even nowadays, we have like the Backlash show and stuff. We're running that little high off WrestleMania. So we see a lot of WrestleMania rematches. I mean, we'd be doing that.
I was going to say the night after WrestleMania is always a great wrestling, great Raw to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the whole month too, like basically the whole month.
Oh yeah.
Is you're just, you might get like here or there and like a new feud, but most of your top matches are going to get rematches. Even though I doubt they're going to do a rematch between Cody and Roman. But, hey, you never know, man. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so. I think this has got to be it. I think that if Cody beats him and takes that title, Roman's got to go away for a while.
Yeah, maybe Cody can finish his story here, but maybe he won't like it. So then 4 years later, he'll come back and write it with a different director.
Yeah. different. Yeah, we do a remake 4 years later.
Yeah.
with different actors.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, Allison, what do you got for the metal music for us?
All right, man. So we've never talked about this band before, and they released an album, their first album actually, 2 days before the movie came out. So on April 17th, 1989, was the debut album from one of the big four of Canadian thrash metal. We're talking about Annihilator. Are you familiar with Annihilator at all? Have you heard them before?
I've heard of them before, but I'm not super familiar, but I have heard of them.
But yeah, they came up with Sacrifice, Voivod, those kind of bands. They're definitely a second wave thrash band. So they're like, they're not like the Slayer era. They're like, the late 80s, early 90s. So they released their album Alice in Hell on April 17th, 1989. So this and maybe their second album are really kind of the only Annihilator albums I actually like. But this album is a classic. It's got this song on it called Burns Like a Buzzsaw Blade that I like a lot. And then the Alice in Hell main track, which I guess you could call the title track, because I always get it confused because the album's called it's called Alice in Hell, but the second song is called Alice in Hell, which is really confusing for me.
That's interesting.
But yeah, anyway.
They're a big fan of that story.
Yes. But anyway, so basically Annihilator was like, they're like one of those like kind of one-man bands in a way. Like Jeff Waters was the guitar player, and on this album he played all the guitars, the bass, he played everything but the vocals and the drums. So he wrote all the songs, he wrote all the lyrics, he wrote everything about it. In fact, the demos for this album have him singing the songs and playing the drums too. And then he had a drummer come in and play the drum parts. And then he has this guy, the singer of the band, sing the songs. But he basically wrote this entire album. But I would definitely, it's Canadian. It's Canadian thrash. So it's not like American thrash. It's hard to describe what the difference is unless you've heard it. But it's not as fast and it's not as riffy. But it's still pretty riffy in a different kind of way. It's really hard to describe over a podcast, but we'll play some at the end of the show. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that the Alice in Hell album came out because it's a great album and people should listen to it.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds pretty fun. We'll play a little bit towards the end of the show. And Allison, I have a question for you. Do you think our boy the Vampire would be rocking out this album while he's out there looking for his one-time-a-year feed?
Possibly, but his mullet is almost too strong.
That's true.
Yeah, it's almost.
That thing was magical. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't really understand. Like, how does this happen? Like,
what, the hair?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, the people have to see it to understand. But it's not just a mullet. Like, it's incredibly long in the back.
Yeah, bro. He's been 1,000 years old.
Well, it's been growing for 1,000 years. There's a 1,000-year-old mullet.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's really strange. Like when this guy, when they auditioned this guy for the part, did he have this mullet or did they put the mullet on it?
Oh man, see, this is the riveting questions that I don't know if will get answered. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
yes,
it's amazing. It's amazing to think that someone would actually have this kind of hair.
I mean, I've seen like mullets like this before. You know what I mean? Where they kind of have like the really long back and they got on the top. You know, I've even see some in wrestling before. But this guy's was just so well maintained.
It was absolutely well maintained,
and never moved.
No, I'm just wondering, like this guy's an actor. They didn't just find this guy off the street. Like, he came into audition for this role and got it. But what other roles would you expect to get with hair like that?
Well, there's a bunch you can do in the 80s, brother. All right.
I mean, you could be in The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And then you could be in this and possibly Roadhouse. But I can't think of a single. I'm just trying to think of other actors that had hair like this, and I cannot think of a single one except for the people in those particular movies. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about the mullet some more when it appears in the plot of this movie.
Yes, and we'll talk about the the actor too, who graced us with his mullet as well, because we're about to talk about who booked this shit, brother.
Who booked this shit?
So we got a couple of people who booked this. All right. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the director, Kat Shea. Okay.
Yeah.
And she was also not only the director, but she was one of the writers as well too, along with Andy Rubin. All right.
Yeah, and she was married to Andy Rubin for a while.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. Want to do some a couple? We've seen couples do movies before. So a couple things about this movie. So, Dance of the Dam, 1989, released in April. So they had this executive producer, Roger Corman. Okay.
Yes, we talked about him before.
Yes, we talked about him. And a couple of things that Shea said about Corman was, during the store when they were setting all this film up together, Corman wanted to use a strip club again, and he had a haunted house set. So you're pretty close there, Allison. Okay, we're having like a lot for the strip club. He said he had a haunted house set that had been left over from another film. God, I wonder which film it was.
That's a good point. I would like to know that. Maybe we can research that.
Yeah. See, while I'm talking, see if you can research Roger Corman and see what movies he did.
I'll
maybe
see if I can deduce.
Yeah, like 1988 movies or something. Yeah, while I'm talking about what our girl Shea said. So she said, they had a haunted house left over from another film that Corman was producing. So Andy Rubin and I came up with an idea to shoot in these two locations. Of course, we changed the haunted house into this really modern, amazing, great house. So they used the strip club. Okay, and then I guess they used this haunted house for like the vampire's house. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, the inside of it, I'm sure.
Yes.
This is not. Sorry, go ahead.
Or did they use the same house for both the strip club and the house?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
could have easily. So this is typical of how Roger Corman worked. So Corman had a film lot in Los Angeles that he basically made almost all of his movies at. And he was notorious for making movies based on whatever sets he had already built. So basically he would go, like when he wanted to make a movie, he would find a writer and a director and he would say, okay, I've got these sets, make a movie. Write and direct a movie for me. So that makes sense. So he's like, what he would say. So he has the haunted house set left over, and he wanted to use a strip club again. So make me a movie, and this is what they made essentially with those two sets. And it basically only has like 3 locations, right? It's got the strip club, the vampire's house, and the beach.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's pretty much.
And then in the cab, I guess, but.
Well, yeah, inside the cab. Yeah, that's true. So in that's interesting. So in 1989, he also put out a version of Mask of the Red Death, which
was that before this movie or after?
Well, it came out. I wouldn't call that a haunted house, though.
Well, what about 1988?
Well, no, 1988, he only produced one movie.
Oh, okay.
Which is Andy Colby's Incredible Adventures, which is not a horror movie.
Interesting. Maybe he just had the haunted house in his back pocket. You know what I mean?
I mean, maybe, yeah. In 1990, he put out Slumber Party Massacre 3, which was a year after this.
Yeah.
Because, it doesn't necessarily matter when they were released, it's when they were filmed.
Yeah, when they were filmed.
Because sometimes movies can sit on the shelf for a long time.
Well, there's no way this movie was filmed not in like 3 months, maybe 4 months.
I was about to say it was probably filmed like immediately before it came out, most likely.
Yeah, because I mean,
let's see what he did for television during this time. Nothing.
So while you're looking that up, I'm also going to go about so Kat Shea and Andy Rubin, they wrote the film together. She said it was always a process, including the elements that Roger wanted into the script and the story that Andy and I envisioned. We always had very high aspirations, but Roger didn't discourage that. In fact, he was proud of it. but he wanted to make sure his style of commercial elements were included. Like what do you mean by like the Miller High Life sign and his huge mullet?
Or the nudity, maybe. I don't know.
Or the that little like what's that little ball that has electricity in it? I had one of those in there too.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's probably left over from the haunted house. I guess. I don't know.
And then of course, Corman also insisted that the female lead be a stripper. Just imagine that. Of course. Listen, brother, you're gonna make this film, but the girl has to be a stripper, brother. Because I saw some of these strip movies, and you're gonna put it in there. And so Shay also said it was really hard to find that vampire. In fact, Cyril came in so late I thought he was delivering a pizza to my house. That's interesting. It was really with the mullet.
Yeah,
imagine that,
because he has that mullet.
Yeah, it was. Let's see. It was really late at night, and I thought, God, we're never going to find a vampire. And he walked in. He was the first one auditioned who didn't sound like he was doing a stage play. And he didn't sound like he was doing a period piece or something either. He just talked like a real person. I said, okay, this is the guy. Bro, she would have been like, and his mullet was fucking fantastic. I'd have been like, sold.
Sold.
She thought that was going to be the pizza boy.
Even though she didn't order a pizza, but yeah.
Yeah. So.
But yeah. Also, Kat Shea made this movie that's really, really good that everybody should watch called Streets. It came out in 1990. It has Christina Applegate playing a teenage prostitute in it. It's a really, really good movie.
Interesting.
If you can find it, you should watch it. It's probably only on VHS, though. Get those VCRs out.
So do you ever figure out what might have been the haunted house or no?
Not really, no.
It's kind of tough.
I don't see anything. I think that he just has it. That he just had this set because I can't see anything that he would have made in several years that would have had a haunted house set.
Yeah.
Unless there's just something I'm looking over.
Could be one of his television shows or something. I don't know.
I mean, maybe, yeah, or he could have just had it. I mean, maybe he put out Frankenstein Unbound.
Yeah, maybe he just knew somebody.
Maybe.
Yeah. So like we were saying before, so this film got a remake, like in 1993, like that's kind of interesting. Like I don't know any film that got a remake that quickly. Like unless I'm missing something. God, like
No, I was a little confused by that myself. Yeah. Because the remake's called To Sleep with a Vampire, and Corman produced it again.
Yeah.
And it had Scott Valentine, who was on Family Ties for a while. I think he played Nick, which is weird that I can remember that. And Charlie Spradling, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And then Kat Shea said she wanted to remake it again.
Jeez, she can't get it right.
So she wants to remake it again, and she wants to make it more romantic. More like a love story than she made it the first time.
Well, what she said about this one, though, she says, I made it into much more of a love story. I love the new script. I think the new script is much better than the old one. It's much more of a progression of two people over the course of a night who want to kill each other in the beginning. He's taken her to kill her later on, and she's trying to kill him as well. Then and over the course of the night, they fell in love. They truly fall in love. He tries to save her at the end. He's trying to prevent himself from killing her. I think it's a much more accessible than I guess this one is.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, this movie is really. I thought this movie would be easier to talk about than it is. It's really hard to describe what it's like. It's really raw.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the subject matter is like really raw, and the things that they just like flippantly talk about is kind of not shocking, but like kind of like, wow, I can't believe they said that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm guessing what you meant by To Sleep with the Vampire, I guess I never seen it. You said you have. I'm guessing the story is a little bit more easier to follow of them actually like showing the progression of them actually falling in love.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I remember seeing that movie. I remember renting it, but I don't remember a single thing about it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, this one, like, you know, they didn't really, it was like kind of a love story towards the end, but not really. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really see that much of a love story at all with this one. Like, it just seemed like this vampire guy was more fascinated with what the sun looked like than her. So,
well, yeah, I mean, of course, but she, well, okay, so wait a minute. She's talking though, in that quote you just read, she's talking about the new remake she wants to make.
No, in 2011.
Yeah, but right, but in 2011 she's talking about, that's what I'm talking about when she wants to remake the movie again. That's her new script. She didn't write the script for the remake.
Oh, okay.
It's just that Corman just took the concept again and had somebody else write it.
Interesting.
Direct it.
Oh, okay. I got you. That's weird.
And it's about a guy who, I mean, in that one, the vampire just kidnaps a stripper. I mean, it's not the same story, but it's similar.
Gotcha.
It's a similar story.
I see. I thought she was talking about the 1993 version, but yes, you're right. I guess she's trying to make the movie up. And this girl could just not. She's like, she has to finish the story, brother. Okay. But I don't think she ever did, because this is in 2011. She was thinking about this, and I haven't seen nothing unless I'm missing something.
No, it hasn't been remade again. I mean, come on. I mean, like, who's gonna finance this thing? Roger Corman's dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just be like, look, we already made this thing twice.
So there's a couple things about some of the people who act in there. One of them is, I want to talk a little bit about the person who played the teacher, which I'm guessing was like the blonde stripper. So she's actually known for being a dancer and a pinup model in real life, and Shoot Life, brother. Okay. And she's also known of doing a lot of erotic thrillers. All right. Vampire and material art genre films. All right. And she's also a black belt in martial arts too, brother. All right. This girl named Maria Ford. All right. She was the blonde. It was only on there for like a little bit. And
she's, I'm guessing, yeah, she's listed here as teacher, but I guess she's like the blonde stripper.
She was like the blonde stripper, basically. And she was in the movie Strip to Kill 2, Live Girls. That sounds fun.
Yep.
And she was in
Cache Road, I believe.
Yeah. And then Masquerade of the Red Death. All right. I think that's the one you just talked about.
Yeah.
And so she was also in Summer Party Massacre 3. So she's done a lot of this Corman's films on here, which is pretty cool. A lot of kind of like a lot of B, like B horror movies, basically. B, raunchy horror movies that she's done a lot of. But I thought that was pretty interesting, getting an actual, it's good to actually have somebody that's like knows what they're doing in the production.
Absolutely.
Another person I want to talk about too is the guy who played the vampire, Cyril O'Reilly. All right. And I thought, I was looking through some of his stuff, some of the movies he's done, some of the TV he's done. And the biggest thing I noticed, because I am a huge X-Files fan, this guy was actually in an episode of X-Files in 2002, the Hellbound X-Files episode. He played Ed on there. So I was like, oh, shit, okay. So
2002, that would have been near the end. I probably stopped watching X-Files by that point. I don't know if I've ever seen the end of the series.
Yeah, that's kind of like definitely towards like more like the end of, because usually X-Files are really strong in like 96 and 97. That's when they were pretty much at their highest. So, but he did some movies after this. Like he went on to do Baja, Oklahoma. All right.
Okay,
he did
sure.
Matlock, The Witness Killings.
Oh, okay. He was okay.
I mean, come on, brother. The Cottonwood, 1996. Just take my money. All right, but none.
Imagine why this didn't work out for this guy.
But none was better, as in the Pizza Boy Vampire that we have.
Right. This is the finest role. But yeah, the girl that played Jodie, she's been in a lot of things though.
Yes.
Star Andreef. Yeah, she was in Amityville Dollhouse. She was in The Terror Within. That's the things I could think of.
Yeah, a lot of B movies as well. She was in, The Facts of Life. All right.
Oh, she was in some TV shows, I'm sure. Yeah.
Some TV shows on there too. So we'll probably be seeing her again. I think. Was the Amityville Dollhouse? Was that in the 80s? No, shit. It was 1996.
Probably. Yeah.
There's a shit
We're
ton
going
of
to do
those
The Terror Within at some point because I'm pretty sure that's an 80s movie.
Yeah, I thought she was pretty good. Like, she was all right in this film. I thought she played the...
I thought she was fine. I thought she was fine. You got to consider. I mean, this is not a high-budget movie by any stretch of the imagination. So, I mean, you know, these are like, you know, these are the kind of actors that if we're Roger Corman that we can afford.
Yeah.
You know, she's not going to win an Academy Award, but she was fine. The movie was decent. You know, it was a good movie. She did fine in it. I have no problems with this at all.
Yeah. But let's see if we can put that to the task there, Allison, because we're about to do the full review of Dance of the Damned.
Dance the Damned. Let's do it.
Everybody thinks I'm dancing for them. It's an act.
First, it was a seduction.
I don't care about the people watching me.
That's true.
Neither one of them could resist.
You use men.
You're hurting me.
They're both victims of the night and of each other. His presence frightens her.
You called me. There's a dark space in your soul, a little piece of death.
Their torment binds them together.
Say, we both live off the energy of other people. We can't change who we are.
What are you?
I'm not even human. Tell me about your world, and at sunrise I'll end your pain.
Between the dusk and the dawn, they dance. The dance of the damned.
All right, so we start up this movie. All right, and we're in like some back alley, some shit. And at first I'm like, okay, what's going on over here? We see this, automatically we see this fucking dude in like a 1980s like suit. And the first thing I noticed right away, like we've been talking about all episode, is the guy's mullet. I was like, oh shit. So my notes right. Vamp guy outside, great mullet. That's my notes. And
I just wrote amazing mullet.
so like, I guess he's like wandering around nighttime and he sees a sign that says live girls. It's like, okay, well, what? Fuck, I'll just go there. So then he like 80s morphs or jumps to like the staircase for effect.
Yeah, this had some amazing effects in it. And the vampire has very dubious powers.
Yes.
But we'll get to them.
So one thing I thought was interesting, like, so like, everything in the 80s, like that's like underground, has to be in like dirty hallways. You know what I mean? Like we got to go through like these dirty, nasty hallways. So he's walking around this like dirty hallway to get to the live girls, and he sees like these two young people. Apparently they're dead on drugs or something. And we could see that this is when we noticed that he has like, at first I was like, well, this guy, what, he can't see colors? You know what I mean? What is he, colorblind? But no, it's his vampire eye.
It's vampire vision.
Yeah. He has vamp vision, brother.
Vision. Yeah.
So he goes into the... I actually don't want to call this a strip club because, boy, it just looked so bad. Like, it looked like
there wasn't much club to it.
No. There was
it was mostly strip.
There was like an old lady sitting there. There's like these fucking truck drivers everywhere. So like, it's actually
in a bar, which I'm sure is made out of plywood.
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny. And I don't know when I would talk about this again, but recently I've been watching this show about strippers that
I'm sure
that No Fear Bethany got me hooked on. It's the show called P Valley. I don't expect you to know anything about this show, Allison, but it's like a gangster strip club and shit. And I like that stuff. I like the gangster stuff. You know, this show is fucking really good. And those strip clubs are like, you know, like real, you know, they put a lot of production in their strip club. And I've been watching like the first, well, it was kind of weird how I watched it, but I've been watching most of the first season. And then I turn on this film, and I'm like, fuck, this ain't no strip club. What the hell is this shit?
My first thought once we got to this part was, did James direct this movie? Because it seems like exactly like something he would make.
Now, I would do that for budgetary reasons and to be funny. Okay? That's what I would do.
But, yeah. So you and your girl are watching the strip club TV show.
Yeah.
And then,
P-Valley, brother. Check it out on
yeah.
Stars. If you want some gangster rap shit going on there, brother, and a good story, I recommend checking it out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I got a couple of different sides to me, brother. I don't only just watch horror movies and wrestling, brother. I'll surprise you here and there.
Yeah, you're a straight Renaissance man.
Speaking of Renaissance man, we have our boy Vamp in there, and he's just staring down everybody. And I like it where like he walks right in and just automatically gets like a flashlight shown in his eye, and he like freaks out.
Yeah.
Like, which is weird because the only reason I'm bringing this up, because remember this, like we at the beginning of the film, he has like this spotlight like shine on his eye, and he freaks out. Okay.
Yeah.
So remember that for later. All right.
Right.
So he's sitting there. This is when we see Jodie, and she's doing her dance routine. Okay. I guess it was all right. You know what I mean? It was a 1980s stripper dance routine. Okay. There wasn't much of a crowd, and nobody was like throwing bands or throwing ones. Like this is not the era for throwing bands, I guess. You know what I mean? They don't.
But I think that's kind of the point of this is that it's supposed to be like this really sad, depressing like strip club that nobody's in, and the girls aren't making any money or whatever. I think that's the point.
So the Vamp guy is just looking her, seeing her all down stuff. So then she just gets off the stage. I guess she's like, fuck this place. So she gets off the stage. She goes onto a payphone, and the big thing with her character is I don't know if I got the whole story, but correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, where she had a kid and she couldn't take care of the kid or something. So the baby's daddy or somebody like took the kid away, and she's supposed to have visitation, but like they kind of denied her. And so she kidnapped the kid, and then now she can't see the kid at all.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's basically right. So basically she had a kid with this guy who had a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then he took visitation rights away from her, at least from my understanding. And then she kind of tried to take the kid, and now she can't see the kid, period. Right. So she's trying to call, I guess, her baby daddy or whatever. Yeah.
She was trying to, I guess it was getting close to his birthday, and she had some where she would always like see him on his birthday. So she's trying to call her up.
Is it his birthday the next day?
Yeah, it's the next day or something.
This whole movie takes place in one night, right?
Yes. I believe so.
Yeah.
So she's doing all that, and then she goes in there, and then she's about to... So, some of the stuff is a little bit sensitive storyline going on here. So the biggest sensitive storyline was going on where she was really depressed. So she would always threaten, like, suicide. Whether it be, like, mostly with pills and stuff. And I guess the teacher, which was the blonde stripper, after she got done with her routine, she was basically telling her, like, I'm tired of you, like, threatening us all the time. Here, use a gun. I was like, okay. This is definitely the 80s, brother. Okay.
No, sorry. Yeah, they choked me up. Yeah, that was pretty wild. Like that was like, because they all look like coked out strippers. Like Jodie looks like she's like she's coked out the entire time, and then which she probably was, and then like the other girl like pulls his pistol out of her bag. It's like, you're ready to shoot yourself. Why don't you just fucking kill yourself? I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah,
this movie's wild, and we've only been watching it for like 5 minutes.
Yes. And so then another stripper comes in, and then has been like, how come none of you girls are on the floor and stuff? So you could just see that the girl Jodie is very, very depressed character.
Yeah.
So she's trying to leave the club now in a very fancy red dress, and that's when our boy Vamp shows up. And at first, like, I guess Vamp was like, grabbed her hand right when she went to the door. And then he's like staring her up and down. She thinks she's gonna get attacked. She's just like, just do what you want or whatever. And he's like, nah, I actually want to bring you home with me because I want to talk to you. Here's $1,000. She's like, you just want to talk to me for $1,000? He's like, yeah, I need to talk to you. You're very, very important. And, you know, the dialogue was a little more, like, slower than that. But that's the kind of like the gist of it. He wants to take Jody home to talk to her about certain things. So they don't have like a car. So like, you know, like they basically leave the club, and the vampire wanted to take her somewhere. He wanted to take her home, but she was like, well, you never said anything about taking me home. So they actually go on the bus. Okay. And
yes. This is great.
I believe at this time, like, she knows that he's kind of strange, the vamp. Like, he's just acting a little strange. But she kind of does kind of need the money. So I think she agreed to, like, go with him somewhere to talk for the money. And she still thinks this is all going to, like, you know, paying for sex, basically. And then we get some punkers out of nowhere. Okay? Like some British 1980s punkers. And like,
but they're in Los Angeles.
They're in Los Angeles. And so I wrote down the lines that this guy was saying. Oh my god. It was pretty funny. Shit, where are they? Hold on. Okay, and then, you know, Vamp, like, I wrote down these notes for these punkers, and the Vamp guy is saying he never did have anybody at his house before. And that's when she finds out, oh, we're going to your house. All right, and then here's what the punker guy says. The first punker guy that was bald, here's his line to the lady. And I said, maybe you can use this one later. He's all like, hey, Jody. Or no, he didn't know Jody, but he's like, hey, pretty, do you want to touch my condom? Wait, what a winner there.
That's amazing. You want to touch my condom?
I don't, like even for like a sexual joke, like how does that work?
I don't know. I don't know what this even is supposed to mean.
And then he's all like, you can suck on my shoes. Okay. Very, very, very interesting punk guys over here. And then she's like, you know, the funny part too is like she's getting like basically harassed, and she's looking over to the vamp. The vamp guy just looking off to the distance and looking like, how's her driving? And she's like, aren't you gonna do anything? He's like, no. And then they start like messing with the vamp, saying like this guy with the flower ain't gonna do anything. And then eventually the vampire pokes him in the eye. All right, with his vampire powers, and they leave. And then Joey's like, oh, where have you been for my whole life? So
well, like he puts a flower in his eye.
Yeah, the flower in his eye. Yeah.
And then with his vampire powers, and now she's all like, "Oh, now I'm interested in this guy who punctured this guy's eyeball with a flower."
Yes. So now they're outside, and she is not really comfortable of going to his house because she says like, "Why can't we just talk here?" And this is when we find out the vampire just wants to kind of like know some things. He's like, what does this sun look like and stuff? And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, how am I supposed to know? I work nights. Okay. He's like,
she doesn't see the day either. So
yeah. And then of course she starts to smoke, and he goes away because he hates cigarette smoke. I didn't know. Is that like a vampire? Maybe it's the fire. I have no idea why he hates cigarette smoke, but he does.
Well, I mean, it's because it's kind of disgusting, but
yes.
But yeah, I see what he's saying. I don't disagree with him at all. It's just kind of, it's kind of gross, I guess. But I don't know. I've never heard that for vampires. But I think it's because his senses are very sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, that could be it. I just never heard
senses, it. So yeah, I've never heard that before. But there's a lot of things in this that we'll never see again in vampires.
Well, speaking of never see again, they just so happened to be across his condo, his big house. And he's like, oh, this is my house right here. And she's like, at first she wasn't feeling it, but then she's like, you know what? He's giving me $1,000. He's rich. Might as well make my money. All right. So they go in. He asks like, hey, do you want any wine and stuff? She asks like, hey, are you rich? Okay. And then like, I thought this part was so random, but like semi-funny. She's like looking around all those decorations. She's like, hey, you gay or something? Because you have really great taste. And he's all like, no, I'm not gay or nothing. I'm not even a human. And she's like,
I'm not even a human.
And then she's like, what? And then she sees the fangs, and then she starts freaking out. All right, she's like, what the hell? What's going on over here? It's like you, and then Vamp, like, you were calling for me. Your dark soul was calling for me. And I was like, okay, we're getting some Archie shit over here now. And then, no shit, she pulls out the gun that the teacher gave to her, and she shoots this guy a whole Loomis 6 times, brother.
Yep.
All right?
No effect.
She ain't fucking... Well, he does fall down. All right?
Well, he does fall down, right? Yeah.
All right? And she's trying to, like, get out of there. She tries to call, but the vampire gets up and he rejuvenated himself, and he grabs her and stuff. All right? And she's like, you know, what the hell? What are you? You know, because she's freaking out that he, you know, didn't die after getting shot 6 times. All right?
6 times. Yeah.
And now the vampire is basically explaining, like, listen, I need to feed tonight, okay? And I don't really feed that often, but when I do, I need to feed. And she's like, well, why can't you do dogs or animals? All right? And he's like, well, I need your spirit and your soul. All right? It's more for my feeding if I can have your spirit and your soul. And I was just thinking, like, you know what? I could feel that. You know what I mean? You got a nice little juicy steak. You know what I mean? I got to feel it. I got to feel its soul going through the body, brother. Come on now.
No, you got to watch. You got to feel the soul leave the body when you're feeding.
So the big thing about him is before he can feed on her, I guess he wants to, like, get to know them or something. I'm not confused about that, but he wants to know, like, what the sunlight in the day is like. Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, does he ever specifically say he's gonna feed on her, or he just says that her soul was calling to him?
Well, okay. So what I'm guessing at this early beginning of their talking, because they do a lot of talking.
Yeah,
I think that he felt her because he felt her sadness, which he did say to her. He felt her sadness. So I guess maybe in his vampire lore or his vampire tricks, he sensed her sadness and that she was going to be killing herself one way or another. So he's like, well, fuck it. You know, we can't have that meat get wasted. So I will just, you know, feed her to me since she's going to be killing herself anyway, because he does go on about his backstory later on in the film of how he's some sort of outcast vampire. So we're kind of getting the building blocks of him. He doesn't just go out and kill humans. He's kind of like the vampire that, like, Tom Cruise was. You know what I mean? Like in Interview with the Vampire, like where he did.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like where he tried to do the dogs and the cats and stuff, but vampires, they need the real blood. They need the human blood.
Yeah. You got it. Yeah, so, there's no substitute for that.
So I think that's like he was kind of torn. And then I guess maybe I guess maybe because he felt like a connection with her. That's why he's asking her these questions of like, hey, what does the sun look like? Because and she's like, well, why are you asking me stuff? He's like, well, I want you to describe something I can't see. I want to know what it's like. I want you to tell me what it's like. All right, then he would have his like fits of rage here and there, you know, saying humans are like cattle. All right, and he also wants to know like what does it like to have friends? And she's like, well, you picked the wrong person. All right, I don't have any friends. All right, and I don't let anybody get close to me. All right, and she's like, well, what do you want? Mm-hmm. So and then she's like, you know, the vampire is basically saying like, listen, you know, I have to feed. All right. And you have it easy because you have a heartbeat and you eventually die. Me, I live forever. So I'm constantly have this endless hunger. All right. So we're showing some more depths of the vampire lore where, you know, we had like the endless boredom. You know what I mean? We have like the endless lust. And now we have the endless hunger out of all 3 movies we've done.
Yeah, but I think that he's just living his life wrong. I mean, for one thing, doesn't he say he only has to feed once a year?
Well, I think he said he doesn't feed. I think what he does is he doesn't feed often. Like, I don't know if it's once a year or not, but he said he doesn't really feed often on humans. So I'm guessing he does still eat, like, dogs, cats, and maybe the medium rare steak here and there.
Sure.
But he has to have at least once a year a human body to rejuvenate himself.
I see. So, but yeah, I mean, like, man, like, I mean, he's got that amazing mullet.
Yeah.
He's going to look like this forever.
Yeah.
He can basically have an infinite amount of chances to do whatever he wants. He lives in LA. I mean, this guy's just, if he's bored, he's just living his life wrong. There's all kinds of shit.
Yeah, but he can't go out to the beach
it's
there,
1989. Not in the daytime, but he can in the nighttime. Like, why has he never thought of that before?
Well, he doesn't see the point.
Like, he just stays in his house all the time, apparently, except for when he, senses somebody's dark soul and then, travels out to the strip club.
Yeah, goes out to the local strip club, bro.
Which, I mean, I don't know how he was able to, pinpoint her dark soul in this place, because it looked like pretty much everybody in there had pretty much a dark soul.
Yeah.
And was depressed. So I don't know how he was able to pinpoint her, but, it is what it is. It got us going in the movie.
Maybe it's a dance, brother. He felt it.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was.
So they go on about this girl's Barbie doll too. I didn't really get that. I guess because there was some intimidation factor over here. And apparently our boy Vamp, he didn't know how to use his video camera that he just bought too. All right.
For $1,500.
For $1,500. He bought it. He doesn't know how to use it. Mm-hmm. He truly is old. Okay.
Did he? he's like a boomer.
Yes.
He doesn't know how to use his $1,500. So how did he buy the video camera? Did he just like go to the store at nighttime and buy it?
Yeah, bro. He went to the local Walmart at 1989 and bought the camera when they were open 24/7. Okay.
For some reason. Okay.
For some reason. Maybe he was gonna record. Like, see, he should have just waited, brother, because he could just live stream the beach nowadays. You know what I mean?
Well, nowadays,
on his phone. Like, if he would have waited, it'd have been all fine in a couple, a couple decades. He could have waited. You know what I mean? What's the problem?
He'd been going 1,000 years. You might as well go a little longer.
Yeah, come on, brother. So they're also talking about, like, this is when we get this whole story of Jody and the father and everything. We talked about earlier. So she's just talking about, like, the dad, the baby's daddy was rich and everything, and he can't see anymore because I try to take her and everything, try to take the son back. All right, and then, like, it's gonna be his birthday soon, and I really want to see him and stuff.
Yeah, she says it's the first birthday of his she's gonna miss.
Yeah. So now the vampire is now telling his story of how he came to be. And I thought this was, like, kind of creative. And I think the only movie I remember that did this, and I could be wrong, Allison, you might need to correct me, was Underworld, where the vampire guy was saying, listen, like, this is not like your guys' folktale where the vampires were, created by somebody biting, you bite somebody and they turn into a vampire. We don't do that. We were actually born this way. We're actually like a real race that was born this way. And I swear, didn't, like, Underworld do that, where they actually had, like, a born vampire race? Like I said, I could be wrong.
I think so, yeah, because they're definitely not. They're not. I haven't seen this movie in a long time.
Yeah,
but they're not. They're not turned into vampires. Just like he wasn't. He also says he doesn't really look like a human either. Like, he just does this to disguise himself. Yeah, he does. Like, he has, like, he has that thing where the human eye would see him like a human, so they're not, like, freaked out. Right. And he's saying, like, that basically his backstory was that him and his mom were, like, semi-outcast to the vampire community. And I guess he said they both got drunk off blood one day. Weird. I was like, okay. And they showed up in a barn. And he's saying that the only thing that, can kill our vampire race is fire and sunlight. And they got set up in this barn where they got locked in. And somebody, I guess, followed them, and they set the barn on fire. Okay,
And he said that his mom basically saved him because the mom digged him in the dirt, all right, while she was burning to death, all right? And he said, like, when he got out of there, he actually had some burn scars all over him. And he said that the vampire race that he's part of is a very, like, proud and beautiful race. So if you have scars on you, they cast you out. All right? So that's why he's an outcast vampire. All right?
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why he said, like, he tried for a long time to just eat on dogs and cats and, you know, the rare meat like he was saying earlier. But he said he finally caved in and actually drank some human blood, and that is the thing that cured him. So that's why he has to feed on somebody, and that's why he wants to feed on her, because they're like, hey, if you're gonna die anyway tonight, you know, might as well give me that energy, brother. Okay,
that's a good point. If she's gonna kill herself,
yeah,
she might as well let him kill her.
And then she was basically saying, like, hey, you kind of read me wrong. Like, I was just doing a strip dance to take your money, not for me to be a soul. So she's saying basically, like, she was, like, in a form, she tricked them in a way. Like, I guess through her dance and her motions, the vampire thought like she was some sort of lost dark soul that was going to be lost and killing herself anyway. But Jody's saying, like, to him, like, no, that was all an act. That's an act you have to do to lure customers into your strip dance. And yes, I am depressed, but I'm actually not going to kill myself because I, you know, like, she's like in between it. And they start going on how they both use energy from people. All right. And I use it from stripping and you use it from feeding. And I was like, I'm pretty sure those are two different things. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, they're showing how similar they are. Like, you know, how, like, you know, a vampire is someone who drains all of your blood, and a stripper is somebody who drains all of your money.
Yeah. So she gets on there that he stops her from smoking. Okay. And now she is going to be drinking some whiskey, and it's Dick's whiskey. You ever had Dick's whiskey before?
No, I have not had Dick's whiskey.
Well, that sounds terrible. It's probably pretty tough. You know what I mean? Come on now.
Yeah, probably.
And then this scene was a little weird too, because she's videotaping our vampire, and she's telling about a story where she got raped. And I was like, okay, this is going.
Right, just, yeah, like, that's one of the things I'm talking about. Like, she's just, like, nonchalantly talking about being raped at 14 while she's videotaping the vampire listening to the story. And there's no follow-up on it. She just says, I was raped when I was 14.
Yeah. So she tells the whole story, and then she gets a little, you know, little pissed off.
Yeah.
And then she, like, runs out of the room. She runs into the vampire's, like, I guess, like, his bedroom or something. And the big thing about the vampire too, he was basically saying that he is not like a human. He doesn't want human lusts or stuff. He just wants to feed on humans. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But he wants to keep Jody around to feed on her because he wants to, like, ask her a lot of questions that, you know, that he just never asked before or was very curious about. That's why he's kind of like, that's why we're trying to think right now that's why he's keeping her around and not feeding on her yet, because he wants to make a friend with her so he can learn about this stuff that he can't see with his own eyes. But Jody goes into his room and she turns on the good old telly, and our boy Vamp got some porn, brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was hilarious.
So
it was not supposed to be. That was pretty funny.
So he has some porn on there, and he comes in. He's like, "Oh shit, you weren't supposed to see that." And she's like, "Oh, you just want to feed on cat. You don't care about human affection, huh?" And he's like, he just turns the shit off and he looks at her all pissed off and stuff. All right. And now, because, you know, our girl's like halfway drunk too, and she's all like, "Man, And then, like our vampire guy says, listen, you will never understand the emptiness of living forever. All right? And she's like, well, you know, I just missed my kids and stuff, and like I'm so mad that I missed his birthday, you know, because his birthday was supposed to be, you know, yesterday, and he's like, no, wait a minute, I can help you out. Yes.
Yeah. That he has this convoluted explanation of when the day starts.
Yes, this whole thing about when this day's starting. Basically, what is it like? The day doesn't start until like 2 a.m. I have no idea what they're saying.
It says the day starts at 5. Well, okay, so it does make sense because
Yes.
when I had to take my early flight, I almost thought about it the same way because I had to be at the airport at like, you know, my flight left at 6, so I had to be at the airport at like 4. So 4 o'clock is still the middle of the night. It's not in the morning. So what he's saying basically is like if you stay up really late, you don't say I went to bed early. You say I went to bed late. So
Yeah.
so at 5 a.m. is when the daytime starts. So up until then, it's the same day. So she hasn't missed it, even though it was the day. It was supposed to be that day, right?
Yes.
So she hasn't missed it because the next day doesn't start till 5 a.m.
Yeah, so they still got some time.
Right.
Right.
So their big plan is they're going to go visit the kid in the middle of the night.
Yeah, what's his? I guess also too. They have the vampire guy. Also, he has to bite her before 6 o'clock because that's when it starts getting light out there.
Right.
Yeah, that's why, because it started getting light. I guess around 6 o'clock in California time during this particular time. That's when it starts getting light outside. So he needs to make sure he gets that bite in before it comes 6. So this is when we have the big scene of them going to the taxi because the vampire guy's like, hey, I'm going to go take you to your kid. And she's like, well, why? It's like, well, let me do this for you. I need to do this for you because, you know, like we're seeing now, like, you know, they have a weird relationship where they calmly talk to each other or calmly not talk to each other. She doesn't know she's being trapped here. You know what I mean? The vampire's acting like he's not trapping her. So it's like a very like back and forth. They're kind of confused on each other. But we could see that, you know, the vampire is saying he wants to know this stuff, so he's trying to be her friend. But then we also see that he probably wants to maybe make some love to her too, because he saw the porn. So
kind of, yeah, like he's trying to like it's almost like he's trying to avoid that, and he's like, I kind of took it like he wants to kill her. Well, he feels like he should kill her and just, you know, feed on her, but he kind of doesn't want to. And then she's acting like sometimes she acts like she's being like kidnapped, and then sometimes she acts like she wants to be there.
Yeah, it's interesting. So they go in the cab. This cab driver is pretty annoying. They stop there, and the vampire pulls out the window, pulls out the keys and the radio. It says, wait here, and he gives her money. This is the comedy portion of the film, I guess we have to hear.
I guess so.
So he levitates her up to go see the kid. She sees her son, says happy birthday. The dad's coming in, so they got to get on out of there. And they get on there with the dad's coming in, and the dad didn't see that nobody was in there.
It was kind of cool how he held the door closed with one finger.
Yeah.
And then I guess the person on the other side is not supposed to wonder why the door won't open, but whatever. And then they go back out the door again, out the window again. I mean.
There you go, man. That's how you do it. So they go back in the cab, and now the vamp wants to go back to the club. Mm-hmm. All right, which I'm guessing the club is called Somatic Pair.
I guess I didn't notice that, but I guess it is.
There's Somatic Pier, maybe a Somatic Pier. Okay, that's the strip club, brother. All right.
I feel like it's also weird that she has keys to the strip club.
Well, you know, it's a staff of 3, brother. I mean, come on.
All right,
come on. We got an opener. We got an opener, closer in the middle. Okay, let's do it.
Right.
So they get there, right? And like, well, no. Okay, hold on. So before they go back to the strip club, they're actually going to the pier. All right, sorry.
Yeah.
They're actually going to the Santa Monica Pier. Okay.
Santa Monica Pier, yes.
So they get there, and the girl, the vampire. No, it wasn't a vampire. It was the Jody. She says, "Hey, taxi driver, give me your blanket." And she's asking, "Does your blanket have crabs in it?" Okay.
Well, yeah. So she's
Yeah.
saying no. She's saying she's saying does your blanket have crabs?
Yes.
Implying that he he's like
He fucks
dirty.
around on it. Yes.
Right, I guess.
And the cab
uses blanket.
Yeah, and the cab driver doesn't want to use the blanket because he really likes it. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to the beach right now. We're on the beach, and Jody has an idea, and she's about to leave to go on to do something for him, and the vamp guy is kind of worried because he's like doesn't want to, leave her out of the sight just in case she runs off because this is literally his meal ticket. Okay.
Yeah. Literally.
So she's like, just trust me. So she goes and turns on this light, and she tells the vamp guy to, hey, take off all your clothes. And he's all like, should I take off my underwear too? She's like, no, don't be too frisky over there. All right? You ain't doing that now. All right.
And then like the vampire underwear was amazing. Like he's wearing
just like
some kind of like really colorful like Hawaiian like bikini piece.
Yeah. Underneath all those,
the weirdest thing for a vampire to wear.
First of all, Allison, I don't think that's too weird because under all these goth clothes, there's just some sort of like bright neon, bright pants, swim shorts and stuff.
Weird.
Come on, brother. I can see it. So she flashes a light on him. And this light doesn't hurt him, unlike the light at the strip club did, which is weird.
Which is weird, yeah.
So basically what she's trying to do is she's trying to show him what laying in the sun's all about. Because remember he was asking about that? Like, what's sunlight like? What's the beach like? What's all this shit like? So she is like saying, sit there and look into the light, and this is basically what it's like to be on the beach. And then he's like, well, explain all this stuff to me. She's like, well, you can see it. This is a whole big speech about ice cream. Like, there's sand around there. There's mothers. There's music. All right. There's lifeguards. She's basically explaining Baywatch.
Well, right. She's describing what the beach is like. Oh, I forgot to comment on this. I thought it was so fucking weird how so he gets out of the cab, right? And they're going onto the beach and he stands on the sand and he acts like he's about to fall over. It's like, oh, come on. Like they're really playing this up.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's like from it's like he's a vampire. He's not from another fucking planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's never stood on sand before.
Yeah, because he's like falling down. And she's like,
weird. Yeah.
He's like, well, I never need. So you're telling me out of like 1,000 years, you never stepped on the fucking beach. All right.
Yeah, he's never stood on sand or anything.
Yeah.
Like, really.
I didn't see the point.
Really?
Yeah, right. Okay.
I didn't see the point. Wow. This is fantastic. I love this movie.
Now Jody's like getting a little upset. All right, because she's basically saying like maybe she's like a bad person because she's saying like maybe in this whole thing I never wanted to be a mom. You know what I mean? Because remember like when she had the kid, she basically gave up the kid to the dad because the dad's life was a little bit more structured.
The dad had money.
Yeah, had money structured and stuff. And, I guess she was kind of, I don't know if it was like the dad like cheated on her with her or something. I thought she had the kid, but basically it was, she basically gave up the kid willingly, thinking that she would maybe just, see the kid, have regular visits. But then they stopped that, and that's why she did the kidnapping, and that's why she can't see him again. So now she's like, well, maybe, I would never wanted to be a mom. I was just bad because, maybe I'm full of shit and everything. Okay.
Right. What I took, she doesn't really say this, but what I took out of it was that he was like, a rich guy who came to the sad strip club. And then he, charmed her with a lot of money, and then he fucked her and then she got pregnant. And then she let him take the kid because he has a lot of money. And then she was supposed to get visitation rights. But he never did that. And then she tried to kidnap the kid. And then that went really bad.
So then, when we get to this sad moment, a cop randomly shows up saying, hey, what are you kids doing here? All right. Hey, turn on that light. And then the vampire, and the most 80s thing I've ever seen, he did his old flash moment. And he took her, Jody, and he got out of there, leaving the blanket behind. And the cop,
that was a great special effect of them being really fast. Apparently.
I loved it, man. I was like, yes.
Like, because I can't, like, it has to, it's supposed to be funny, right? That has to be purposely funny.
Yes.
And it's amazing. And then the cop's like, wow, I thought I was talking to somebody.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't.
I guess I'm confused. So now, so now they're back in the cab, right? This is what I was going to say earlier. Now they're back in the cab, and the girl's like, well, I think I got some whiplash. And then the vamp's like, very intense, take me to the Paradise Cafe.
Yeah, the Paradise Cafe. That's what it's called.
That's what the
Which
strip
is
club
weird
is
to call a strip club a cafe.
Well, you know, while you're getting your lap dance with titties in your face, you get a nice club sandwich.
Well, yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of like, I used to know this guy who was like, who would talk about how good the lunch buffet was at the strip club. I mean, like, if you go to the strip club to eat, then you go to the strip club too much.
Yeah, bro. He knows the whole menu.
You need to chill out on that shit. If you're eating at the strip club, you need to chill out on strip clubs for a little bit.
Bro, they got great wings there, brother. Come on. Uh-huh.
That's so.
So they go to they get in there. He wants one more dance. All right, until he does the deed. And Jody looks at the watch, and it's 4:44. Okay, so we're getting close to the 6 a.m. Vamp, he sees a mouse, but he controls himself because he's gonna have the real thing later. And then we get this whole strip scene of Jody doing her stripping. All right, and he's getting so hot and wild by this dance strip. He's about to just bite her right there. All right, and he's about to bite her and take her and everything. And he just pushes her down, and he gets mad, and he throws the table. And this is when we see the Miller High Life on tap sign, brother, in the background.
Yeah. And he wrecks the whole bar, basically.
Yes. And then Jody now goes to him, and the vampire guy is now crying. All right. And then she's like, I want you to make love to me. All right. And then they start kissing, they start tonguing, and I guess they have some vampire sex. All right.
Yes.
So now, after they do their deal, the cab driver brings them back to the vamp house, and the vamp guy tells the driver that, hey, you won't remember nothing. You'll erase all your logs, and you'll go home. You'll find some wallet in the car by some rich guy. He's like, well, what did I do? What happened to my blanket? He said, you ate it. Ha ha ha. And then
he says, doesn't he say some rich guy got in your cab and you took his wallet?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Like, what a weird ass detail to add.
Well, maybe, our boy Vamp, he likes to have, he has a little bit of comedian side. You know what I mean?
I guess so, yeah.
So now Jody notices this, and she's like, well, you could have done that to me this whole time, couldn't you?
Or the cop. He could have done it to the cop, too, instead of just like them like running away like the Flash.
Yeah. Our boy Vamp's like, well, I wanted to make it your choice. Throughout the movie, it was her choice. All right, that's why I did that little trick on you.
That's why I tricked you, so it'd be your choice.
And he says, like, and this is when he also goes on to, and this is when he says, like, like, you got to remember, like, I can't just make you into a vampire. All right? Your stories and stuff, your lore is different than mine. If I can make you into a vampire, this whole fucking world would be run by a vampire. All right?
Yes.
But he says, like, but I got the next best thing for you. And so he cuts himself and he makes Jody drink his blood. All right? And he says, just feed on me and you will feel like how I am and you'll see what I'm like. How I am, but it's only gonna be temporary. It's only temporary though. It'll wear off pretty soon.
Yes.
And she's like starting to feel how he feels, like, vampire style. And she wants to go outside. It's like, I don't think that's a good idea. So she goes outside and she attacks the paper boy. Okay. And the vampire guy stops her from like killing the paper boy. And then they go back inside. And like I thought it was really interesting because the vampire was, this guy was trying to be very like secret, but like this girl almost attacked this paper boy, and they didn't do the Jedi mind trick on him. So like, this guy's gonna be like, who the fuck are these crazy people that almost attacked me? And I'll bring the police over there, but they didn't really care about that part. The biggest part of this angle right now is it's almost 6 a.m. So, he's like, hey, it's time for me to feed. And she's like, no, I don't want to do this no more. He's like, what the hell? So she like tricks him, knocks him down and everything. And she's like running away from him. And she's like, no, you can't escape. Like, I got to drink the blood now. So what she's trying to do is she was trying to run out the clock, brother. Okay. And try to make it light outside so she can escape. And she found this little trap door that goes down to the underground. And she went down there and she was trying to escape into the sunlight because, he can't go into the sunlight. If he does, he'll die. So we had this big chase scene throughout the whole house. And they eventually, he kind of catches her before she can get out of the little trap door in the underground. And she gets back up and then she runs. She kind of gets away from him again. Like, because she still, like, has his vampire powers right now. Like, they're fading, but she still has them. That's why she's, like, able to, like, be, like, semi-equal to him with his power right now. If you remember, she does hide behind one place, and then, he's walking in, then she, like, pushes him really hard into some of his 80s useless junk that's just hanging around.
Yeah.
So the big angle was she goes into like the bathroom or something, some sort of room. And he actually bolted up a lot of his windows. But she's using her vampire limited super serum to break the bolts on the door. Okay? And he's trying to get in, and we have this angle where she's like gets it open. And she's saying, don't come in here. Please, just don't come in here now. Like, I was like, okay, wait a minute. You were just scared and shit that he was going to kill you and stuff. And now you're like, don't come in here. And then, of course, like, the vampire guy is like smiling now. He rips out the door like the Hulk. And he looks at the bright sun in his eye. He says it's beautiful. They touch the little hands together for stop motion. Mm-hmm. And then the movie ends.
And then he dies in the sunlight.
He dies in the sunlight, brother.
Apparently. So, So what do you think overall?
I thought the movie was okay. Like, it had some fascinating vampire lore that I liked. Like, I liked how in this universe, you can't, like, turn anybody to a vampire. You're just, like, you're born that way. You're like born like a different creature who's like living on this earth. I do like how this guy, like, he's not like a normal vampire. I like how he's like an outcast. So since he's an outcast, he's more fascinated with the human life than just like, the vampire lifestyle. You know what I mean? Because, you could tell like when he said that story about him, losing his mom, he's like a kid and stuff, and the vampire community kind of cast him aside. Like I think he was relating more to like the humans than he was vampire, because he wanted to know what it's like to do human things, like go out to the sun, go to the beach, things like that, things that he's never able to do, that he can't do. He's very fascinated. He obviously was fascinated with some sex is there too. So I like the whole, the deeper meaning of the story on it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was okay. Like, I don't know if this would be like a regular rotation for me, but I thought it was a nice little story with some deeper meaning to it. The Jodie character is like, very, obviously a girl on her bad luck, with, can't see her kid. She's at a dead end job. She's very depressed all the time. Bad things kept happening to her. And then obviously, when push comes to shove, she really didn't want to take her own life. She wanted to save her own life. So, we're seeing those two meanings within the story. So, but I thought it was okay. It was okay. So.
Yeah, I just thought it was really wild. It's just such a wild ass movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I liked it. I mean, it's not something I would watch a lot or, maybe ever again, but I don't know. It's just so crazy. Like, it's just weird like that. It's like almost literally like they're just like, okay, we got to write a movie. We have 2 days to write it. What's our movie going to be about? We have a strip club and a haunted house.
Go.
Go.
Yeah, but I thought it was pretty good. Like, like I liked it how they really like put some meaning into some of the backstories. You know what I mean? And it's not like where there's like a backstory and like we see the backstory happen in action. It's more like talking wise. So.
Yeah, because they couldn't afford to film the flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, brother. We only got 3 locations, right?
They got 3 locations. They can't afford to film a barn on fire.
Do you know how much that fucking yeah, exactly. You know how much that fucking spotlight on the beach was? That's like half the budget.
That was that was actually that was the actual spotlight from Santa Monica Pier. They didn't even build that.
Just to rent that shit out, man. Come on now.
That was a real cop for trying to find out what the hell they were doing.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun one. This I like how when I kind of described it earlier, we're seeing like different versions of these vampires. Like we saw like the Count Magnus, in his everlasting boredom. You know what I mean? Yeah. We saw fucking Miriam and John from last time, the everlasting lust for partners. Yeah. And now we see with our boy vampire guy with his everlasting hunger that he can't get rid of. So, but to round out the vampire month next week here on the Retro Blood, what kind of vampire story we're going to have, because the boys are going to be coming back talking all about Fright Night.
Yeah, this is a classic. Have you ever seen this movie?
Actually, I haven't, which is crazy.
You're going to love this.
Like, I know it's a classic, and I've always heard of this movie before, but I don't think I've actually sat down and watched it before. But I'm pretty excited. So
yeah, it's got Chris Sarandon. It's a great film.
So
fantastic.
And of course, when that episode's end, next week we'll tell you what we have going on for March, which is going to be a big month. There's like 5 episodes in fucking March, man.
5 episodes. Yep.
We might do a Lights Out too if I can convince Allison to do Leprechaun too.
We'll see. Don't get the people up for it. I hated the first one.
Bro, I love those fucking Leprechaun movies. They're so wacky.
Didn't we do Leprechaun the first year?
Yeah, the first year, yeah.
Yeah, and the second year we didn't do it. A Leprechaun movie.
No, I don't know if we did anything for St. Patrick's Day, but if we can get the Leprechaun in the Hood, that's my goal. So.
On in the Hood. Holy shit! And there one where he goes into space.
Yeah, come on, brother. We gotta put everybody in. See, like the space gimmick wasn't in the '80s. That's more like a '90s thing.
That's a '90s thing. Yeah, they should do a crossover between him and Jason Voorhees in space.
Yeah. Like they put a lot of people in space in the '90s, which is crazy. Yeah, they put like Jason in. Well, I don't think was that in the '90s. I think it was. Jason.
Yeah, that wasn't Jason X. Was in the '90s.
And then like they put Hellraiser in space.
But yeah. Oh yeah, they did do Hellraiser in space too. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah.
Everybody's going in that space, brother. But yeah. We'll talk about that maybe on the Lights Out soon. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, everybody. That's what we do here on the Retro Blade. But everybody, check out the Facebook page, Instagram page, the group page, the YouTube page. All right. It's gonna be a big year for the Retro Blade. We got a lot of stuff in the works. So watch out for all that stuff.
The best is yet to come.
Yeah, like us on there so you can get all the episodes. Check out the whole catalog that we have. We talk about many great movies and many more great to come. But Allison, what track are you going to be playing getting us on out of here?
Man, let's play from Annihilator's Allison Hill album. Let's play the classic Burns Like a Buzzsaw Blade, because the lyrics kind of fit this movie a little bit.
Yeah, because, I can see our girl Jody dancing to some buzzsaw blades going on there, seducing our boy vampire mullet guy. You know what I mean?
Vampire mullet guy, yeah.
He's just feeling it, brother. He's feeling that buzzsaw going through him. But everybody, we will see you here next week, rounding out our Vampire Month. Jay Dawson, James Klein. We will see you all week.
See you guys.